Right, I'm so sorry. I went through it and realized.
We're ready to go? Uh-huh. Okay.
Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Human Services Committee for December 2nd, 2013. We have a quorum. And could I get a motion for the approval of the minutes of the November 4th meeting?
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our next item on the agenda is citizens' comments, and we have two speakers. Maggie Weiss, you want to speak on noise building?
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Madam Chair, thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Maggie Weiss. I live at 2744 Lawndale Avenue in Evanston. And I just wanted to give everybody an update. We have been meeting twice and consensus on most issues. And we had thought that we might be presenting tonight, and there was a change in the, schedule to increasing our visibility and community outreach. And we believe we can do this in a productive and positive way. And there's only one issue that makes us, and we think it's of immediate importance, and that is the relocation of city staff out of the building. We understand that Parks and Rec is in a period of reorganization and consolidation, and that the Cultural Arts Division staff will be moving to the Civic Center. And we understand that these changes are being done to increase efficiency and economy. We also believe it's possible to find a compromise that would greatly reduce the City of Evanston footprint in our building while still maintaining some kind of presence at noise. The tenants agree that any city staff person present provides a really vital City of Evanston point of contact for the visiting public, provides safeguarding of displayed artwork in the galleries, facilitates coordination of building activities, and attends to physical maintenance issues, among many other things. We feel we need a city staff person there. There's been somebody there for as long as Noise Cultural Arts Center has existed, and certainly not in the current form of having a big 2,000 square foot office. It was not always that way. We're hoping that a cultural arts extension or liaison employee could be a permanent solution for maintaining and administrating activities in the building. The most obvious candidate for this role would be Jill Silverman, who's currently covering many of these responsibilities. As Deputy City Manager McCrae knows, she's been officially reassigned. We're hoping possibly she could work part-time, or perhaps she could train somebody in that position so that the public has somebody to talk to when they walk in the building. Collectively, we're there as tenants renting space to make our art, develop the community, and make our livings, and we strongly encourage you to support a continued, albeit greatly reduced, city presence at the Noyes Cultural Arts Center so we can continue to do what we do best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Esther?
Good evening. My name is Betty Esther. I stay at 2031 Church Street. And I did see the answers to the questions that I raised at the last meeting, and that just raised other questions. I went over the information that was in your package for the public to review, and it had the appropriation and budget thing. It says the budget and stuff was there and for public to review. Just a few minutes. This was laid on the table. These figures doesn't coincide what was on the website, and I'm supposed to review this. I don't have time to address this. I have to look at this because this might answer some of my question, and I'm getting up here speaking on things that have already been answered and giving something and no time to review. As a taxpayer, which I am, and most of the people is here, and if we are supposed to be reviewing these, we should have more than 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes before the meeting starts to review this. So if you could hold this over, that would be greatly appreciated. Have enough than what we are getting.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Esther. Talk about some budget items when we get to the budget. There are no items for discussion, and items for consideration is the HH1, which is the proposed meeting dates for 2014. Has everybody looked at them?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? All right. Okay, moving right along. We'll get to the township. HHT2, Assessor Bonnie Wilson's report.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, members of the Human Services Committee. I just want to, Bonnie Wilson, Evanston Township Assessor, and I just want to give you an update on this month's report. In November, my office helped 9 taxpayers receive $5. This brings the total to $985. Corrections can still be made as far back as 2009, taxes that were paid in 2010. If you think you have missed an exemption or never applied for an exemption, please contact my office to see what you may have been eligible for. I also want to make the announcement that any owner receiving property tax exemptions on a property that is not your principal residence has until December 31st, 2013 to contact the county assessor to calculate the amount to repay for the exemptions received erroneously. After January 1st, 2014, a new state law takes effect allowing the county assessor the ability to recoup those taxes plus penalties and interest. Failure to comply with the county assessor will result in a lien being placed on the property by the county. Please contact my office for information on how to stop receiving exemptions on non-owner occupied properties. That is very important because there's many homeowners in Evanston and they can't not have homeowners exemptions on both properties, only the properties that they live in, not that they rent. So please check your exemptions. Go on the Cook County Assessor's website, cookcountyassessor.com, and check to see if you're getting exemptions on both properties, because you might not realize it, but that you are, because I just checked with another client of mine who had exemptions on homeowners exemptions on both the rental and the homeowners, and did not realize that they had exemptions on both properties. The Cook County Board of Review mailed 2013 result letters out 2 weeks ago. Results of these appeals should be certified soon and made public. Contact the Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board, PTAB, at 847-294-4121 if you are not satisfied with the results of your 2013 appeal to the Court of Review for 2013 in order to appeal 2013 to PTAB, Property Tax Assessment Properties. The Evanston Township Assessor's Office is now located at 2100 Ridge in the Evanston Civic Center, room 1450, which is on the first floor next to the city clerk's office. Our phone number is 847-448-8168. That's 847-448-8168. We are open Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5, and please do not hesitate to call our office for any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Assessor Wilson. HH3.
I have a
I'm
couple
sorry.
questions.
Assessor Wilson, question.
Was the law recently changed about the two exemptions? I mean, how far does that go back that people need to repay?
It goes back as long as they've been paying them.
Okay, so it was never legitimate to start with.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And has anybody else made contact with people? I mean, I was presuming the county has maybe, or
Next year, January 1st.
but they're not going to do it prior to any sort of period where they could file penalties. I mean, how would, other than your announcing this tonight or previously, how does anybody really know about this? Has anybody else?
They're going to, no.
They're going to know after their getting a penalty,
Yeah,
right?
that's why I'm trying to get the word out.
Okay, great.
Try to get more
I'm glad you
word
are.
out
Yeah.
about it.
Thanks.
I think, yeah. Okay.
Okay. All right, moving along, HHT3, the township's monthly bills.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or concerns about the bills?
Sure, there are a number of items that we won't see.
As such, go ahead, such as?
Just a couple of items, copier expenses, there was a consulting fee expense that I'm assuming was a one-time expense, just little things.
That won't appear again, is that what you're saying?
That I'm assuming will not appear.
Okay,
You want me to go?
no,
That was just.
Supervisor's going to answer those. Go
Madam
ahead.
Chair, Alderman Braithwaite, members of the committee, good evening. I heard copier fees. We are in a long-term cut, the cost of getting out of that contract, and that is cost prohibitive. So we will stay with that until it comes to an end. But we have looked at it. We did get a quote from them as to what it would take to buy out the contract, and it's not worth the money. The consultant fees, it may be for, depending on the name. I know that we have a consulting accountant that is charged every month, and that will be ending as of December 31st.
Are there other items, Braithwaite? Just those two?
There's a Pitney Bowes mail machine, which we also look to try to get out of the contract, and that cost is also cost prohibitive. And we are ending the water deliveries to the township, and I believe, Val, we're at the end of that. So we've paid, so we're using up the inventory of water bottles that we have, and then we'll return the machines there. There are also some leftover costs associated with the facility at Main and Dodge, some telephone costs we had to pay out for the end of the telephone contract. The assessor had a Comcast bill with telephone and television, and unfortunately, there again, Comcast was not, we weren't able to come up with a good deal to buy out of that contract. So I think with this bills list, Val, we're seeing the end of the Main and Dodge tenancy costs. So we'll carry with us now the copy machine, the mail postage machine, the water. Once those are all taken care of, we'll pretty much then, all the equipment issues will be on city bills, and we'll be moving forward. So I'm trying to get us out of everything we possibly could get out of these last couple of contracts.
Any opposed? Okay, and then now to HHT4, which is the FY14 Town of Evanston's budget. And I believe the supervisor will lead us through an exercise here.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've worked very diligently over the last several weeks to bring to you a budget that makes sense for the township moving forward during fiscal year 2014. As you know, the agenda that was distributed on Thursday, November 21st for the special town board meeting, which was held a week ago Monday, contained an ordinance with a line item agenda that was distributed, was available for public comment. There was indeed public comment at the special town meeting last Monday evening. We have responded to those comments, and those are attached. For this evening's discussion, we've made you a new packet in this goldenrod color, and as I walk this, so to try to avoid any confusion, we've also made this available for the public. And one good thing about being a color, you can see it in people's laps, so everybody seems to have that. So we will be addressing what is in this packet. So as part of this packet is the memorandum that was provided to you last week with the questions from Ms. Esther beginning on page 11 of the packet. Since the town board meeting, we have been closed for business most of the days between that meeting and this evening. We went through as staff once again, based on some questions that Alderman Holmes raised, to look at some of the numbers in the budget, and we have made a couple of additional changes this evening. Really, just 2 or 3 changes in addition to the one change that was pointed out by the public speaker, which was the supervisor's salary. So that was added in at a full year basis. So what you have before you this evening is different from what you saw a week ago, one with the supervisor dollars added in. Other changes, other major changes since you've seen this last on page 7 of your packet, which is the General Assistance Fund. We have been talking internally about the appropriate number of township general assistance clients to provide funding for. That number has varied over time, and we're here this evening to tell you that that number continues to increase at a very perhaps dramatic's not the right term, but at a significant rate. And so we are proposing this evening a change to the budget to fund 200 general assistance clients for 14. Mr. Colquitt is here and can speak in a moment if you'd like about some of the particulars, but clearly we see that 200 is a number that makes sense going forward. Clearly we're obligated to fund whoever comes through the door, but we want to make sure that this budget is accurate as possible. So the line items on page 7 of 21 under client rent expense and client personal expense have $288,000. The client personal expense is now at $7.4. So calculated, the client personal expense is a pretty simple formula. A client is eligible for $300 a month, so we've done 200 clients times $300 a month times 12. And so unless my math is failing me, that number is $720,000. The client rent expense, about 60% of the GA clients receive rent expense. So what we have done is we've taken 60% of what the maximum dollar amount, $200 times 12, 60% of that is $288,000. Okay. So those two dollar amounts are different from what you've seen previously, but a major change in order for us to be able to fund general assistance applicants appropriately. So those are two major changes. Now, clearly, as you look at the top of the page under our revenues, we are also now spending a significant amount more from fund balance. So now we're proposing a transfer from fund balance of $601,647. If you look at the bottom of the next page, page 8, that will still leave an ending fund balance in the General Assistance Fund as of December 31, 2014, that would still leave a fund balance of $312,374. So clearly that's still a healthy fund balance, but without adjusting the levy and in order to fund these general assistance costs, there will be a significant decrease to the fund balance. So that's a significant change from what you've seen before. Alderman Holmes was kind enough to chat with me earlier today, and she raised a couple of other issues which I'd like to raise right now, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. The next question that Alderman Holmes raised was regarding the community purchase services, and that's on the line item for this is on page 9 of the town fund budget, and that number is budgeted at $164,950. If you recall wearing your hats as members of the City Council adopted a budget that would allow the lion's share of the community purchased services funds to come from the city, and then the balance, $164,950, coming from the township. If you look on page 21 of your packet, the last table, that is the total dollar amount that was approved by the Human Services Committee, $828,979. What the City Council chose to do is to decrease that amount by 5%. The Mental Health Board has not yet made that adjustment. So in some past years, there have been line items in the township budget for its share of the community purchase service by agency. And this year, what I'm proposing is that it's $1 amount that, combined with the city's contribution, will fulfill the recommendations of the Mental Health Board, again, which are listed on page. Since the City Council has adopted the budget, so the numbers on page 21 would be city. Also in past years, the peer services, if you're looking at past years, that has been a separate line item. In working with city staff and township staff, we've determined that it was incorrect for that to be budgeted where it had been previously. So the money has not gone away. It's just in a different fund from the township, and is budgeted at approximately what it has been the past several years. So that is included as well. So that's big change number 2. And then finally, just to be clear on the community action program, which is listed on page 10 of 21, those are funding that we have done through the township over the last several years. And I just want to call out specifically the breakdown of that, which you can find on page 5. So of the amount of money in the community action program, senior handyman program, $5,000 for the West End market, and $715. So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, those are the major issues with this budget. My first priority has been to make sure that we have the client services dollars budgeted at an appropriate level. If you look at the spreadsheet and you look at what we've spent, back to page 7, what we spent, our audited actuals in the last 12-month fiscal year of the township, fiscal year 12-13, we are looking at almost doubling the client personal expense costs. And that is because of some changes in township law and the implementation of those over the last couple of years by the township, as well as the sheer number of people who are coming through our doors for assistance. So this is a major issue. I think the move here to the Civic Center, I think additional awareness of the program, the work that I think we're all doing to make sure that people are aware of these funds, and still people hurting in Evanston, all that taken together, I think is the cause for this increase. And again, I want to present to you a budget that's real, and in talking with Mr. Colquitt, who deals with these folks every day, we feel that the 200 number is a comfortable number to budget. It may very well be exceeded. It might very likely be exceeded, but we did not have another number higher than 200 that we felt comfortable with bringing to you this evening. Certainly we will keep you posted as we move forward. So, Madam Chair, those are, rather than give you a 30,000-foot overview, I thought many of you are familiar with a lot of these numbers, and I wanted to just dive right in to some of the specific points. So those are some of the, I think, the highlights, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For many years, assistance in the town fund and general assistance fund, we will be keeping a fund balance. Is that
you all that I think we're going to get very good at this, and I think becoming very good at this is that we're going to see lots of new people come through our doors, and we are going to have folks that perhaps we have touched through our senior program or have touched through our health, now will be able to get assistance from the township either because they weren't aware. I
Well,
think
we've
we're just
got
going to
on-site
see.
referral. I mean, it's immediate referral.
Right.
It's
And so my fear going forward is that the levy is not going to fully fund even the bare bones of the general assistance. If you look again on page 7, under the revenues, the tax levy proposed for 14 is $886,000. That's a little less than what we'll be spending on rent expense and client personal expense. So I think we just need to be mindful moving forward that this is something we do well, and by doing it well, we're going to be helping more people, and by helping more people, it will cause our dollars to go up. You know, when we look at economies, this is not a place to economize.
Right. Right.
This is something that we are obligated to the residents of Evanston to pay for, while we may be able to save money in other places, it is not in the client portion of the budget.
This is a core service in our estimation. But my question is that enough of a cushion? Is $312,000?
I think
fund balance?
with the unanswered questions that hang over us over the next several months,
All right.
I think this fully funds comfortably, in our estimation, what we will likely see in 14. I'm merely cautioning you in 15, we need to be mindful of that. And I think once, the first quarter of the year is concluded, I think we'll have a better idea of where we're going in 15 and beyond. And when we do, I think it will be important for this committee and the full town board to have those discussions.
And are we staffing appropriately for 200? We're going to add another.
We are not. Mr. Colquitt has a caseload that by anyone's measure is unacceptable.
Sure.
I've asked him and Ms. Thomas Smith to move as quickly as possible with hiring a second individual to help. So we're doing that. We're making other adjustments on a temporary basis to ease Mr. Colquitt's workload and work conditions to the best of our abilities. I really commend him for the outstanding work that he's done and continues to do. So we need to continue to be supportive. I think once we have a second position in place, we'll have a better idea of where we're headed. And I think it's really important that we have Mr. Colquitt and whoever we hire as a colleague to really focus on the core services and to take as much of the ministerial work that Mr. Colquitt already does now to try to get that off his plate. And so I think we'll just have to look at staffing for some of that moving forward so that the people who have really the case management expertise are focused on their time on providing case management and not doing other tasks that perhaps others can do.
Alderman, I'm not sure who went first, Fist or, okay,
ahead.
Alderman Fist and then Alderman Breathwaite.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I have to say, first of all, Jane asked the question that I wanted to know, which was, do we need more staff? And obviously we do. I'm really anticipated consequence of more people now becoming aware and coming in getting this is exactly what we should have been doing all along. So those of you who thought about it in advance, I didn't, and congratulations. So I'm really delighted about this because I think, as you say, we're reaching the people who really need to be reached. We're making it more convenient, easier for them to come in and get the help they need, and the coordination between the various departments is wonderful. So thank you.
And thank you, Alderman Fisk, but I think it's only part of it. I think that there are people hurt in Evanston.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know.
And I think that if we make it easier for them to find us, great.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's sad that they have to find us. And it would be
Right.
great if we were at 100 or 120, but we're not.
But this way of providing services in a central location just seems to be so much easier for people who need the help to ask the help and get the help.
And I think the challenge moving forward, and I met today with the Evanston Ministerial Association, and because they have asked me to come and talk to them about this, is efficiency on one side and compassion on the other.
Right.
And I think there are still members of the community that, of course, are happy to know that we're helping as many people as we can, but it's different than how we used to do it.
Sure.
And we still have to get over the different than how we used to do it, and it's not at the same place. And
But I think
and
this
all
is-
the other issues that have been surrounding the township over the last year or so. That makes it a challenge for us, and I think one that I'm trying to keep my eye on, that the township staff is trying to keep its eye on. because it's a balancing act. It's serving people, it's connecting them with people, but also reinforcing that, the township services are the township services and will continue to be delivered in a compassionate, caring way, as I believe they have for a long time. Unfortunately, there's been lots of other stuff in the air about the township, but the services and the individuals touched by the services are still very important.
But I find this a very
Thank you.
persuasive argument.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alderman Bethlehem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have a quick question for Mr. Colquitt to get a good understanding of the hours that you spend per client. I see this number 200, and I would agree with the township supervisor. I still think that number's low, and I think by centralizing the services and once our community really begins to know about it, that number will increase. So right now, if I do the math, that's roughly one caseworker per 100 clients, which is a little bit scary for me. So give me an idea with the average client without, naming any names.
The average client, but there aren't a lot of average clients. Right now the current active caseload is 181, and that's GA alone. I think, maybe in your bills packet, just the last month of emergency assistance, I think maybe 29 people were approved. So the emergency assistance component is one that is equally time-consuming and detailed, and that number is also going up. So, I mean, being at 180 now and kind of projecting 200, I would anticipate, probably another staff member being needed. The report that we all have been privy to by Novak, they kind of benchmarked Oak Park, and then they compared us, and they talked about 66 being a high number for us based on the case management that we did. They didn't do as much case management in terms of services as we did. So, I mean, if 66 is a high number for one person, you can do the math.
Yeah.
We'll probably exceed 200. But 200 was kind of a safe number now to kind of budget for and look at. We've had meetings around this, and we've looked at this thoroughly, and with the 181, I probably have about 9 in process. So possibly within a week, I'll be at 190. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Grover.
I think I was just going to make a remark about quality customer service, which gets to the compassion, which gets to how much time you have to handle each one of your not average clients.
It's very difficult because
Yeah.
what has to happen is, in taking time to deal with the multiple kind of issues that people have, you got, it's like a hit and miss. You got to perform the crisis intervention, and then maybe set up to see them later when you're not scheduled to maybe do an intake or to work on benefit distribution or to work on an EA case or to work on getting someone to treatment. So there are, a multitude of issues that come in the door, and a lot of times it's really unpredictable. So it just varies. Then there's the homeless population. So that's even.
So don't you find, Mr. Colquitt, that just the application for general assistance or EA is the tip of the ice, well as the.
Pretty much. I mean, there's always, for both programs, there's always a compliance issue. And even if a person comes in, in crisis, you first have to measure if they are eligible. And if they're not, then you have to fish on where you have to send them. So there are guidelines, within each program, and that has to be determined once they sit down. Even after they complete the paperwork, there's like a mini biopsychosocial that's done. That's GA, to determine what their needs are. The EA piece is more of I need help now. And we're talking eviction, we're talking people with heat off, we're talking people with lights off, we're talking people that are hungry. So you have to then put GA aside because it takes priority. So you have to, there's a lot of judgment, involved in an EA case. And you just do the best you can, and you use the wraparound services, that are at our disposal. The Catholic Church does a lot, and if Connections have money, they do a lot, and Jewish Child and Family Services, if you can funnel them there. There are just a lot of resources that you have to kind of make use of. We're currently, speaking about, today we had a lunch, and we're kind of speaking about kind of wrapping services around within the city, and I'm kind of getting to know people who could be more beneficial to what I do and vice versa. So that's kind of where we are now.
I guess just a straightforward follow-up question. On average, how many clients are you seeing per week? So if I'm a GA client, would I have access to you once a month, every other month?
You would have access to me whenever you need me.
Okay.
So that's the unpredictability. That's what I mean when I say the unpredictability. An average of how many clients or sit-downs I may have a week, it can be from 25 to 60.
Just depending on need.
It depends on need.
Need,
Today
yeah.
was a benefit day, and a lot of times I try to kill two birds with one stone. So if they come in to pick up their benefits, if there is an issue I need to address, I kind of leave a note on their check to come and see me. So today, in one day today, I probably saw maybe 25 people, 25 to 30 people today. 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe 5 minutes. It depends on the need.
I have, I don't know if this question is for you, although I think it is. The city manager, the supervisor and I spoke about this, and it really has to go back to the community services. And in the way in which things were listed, and in my head, I'm seeing it differently in terms of, I know the agencies that get funded or have gotten funded in the past, and I know some of those relationships. And the one that I was really concerned about was the ones where I know township clients would get services from them that are very much needed. Drug treatment, alcohol treatment, that kind of thing, counseling. And I just want to make sure that that when we're allocating this money now to the mental health board, and it's going to go through that, I just want to make sure that those services are not going to be diminished in any kind of way. Now, is that a concern, or am I just being a worrywart about it?
I think we need to, and I've had just a very brief conversation with Director Thomas. We were talking about the funding that we give to the Mental Health Board and kind of the minimal use that we have been using our clients to use their services. So that's, I think I kind of requested that I have a listing of everything that every mental health agency does, or social service agency, and then they can kind of earn their keep. I mean, we have some agencies that we may not send because of their specialties or their expertise. And Peer is an example. I get some, but not a lot. So there's a lot to look at in terms of actual direct service treatment of clients.
And I guess maybe then that is a conversation I think that we need to have again, because I'm very concerned about that in terms of listing the agencies that are going to be funded through township assistance, and how that is really going to help benefit township clients. And I understand that we all live in the township. I understand that. But I really do have a concern about that. And you helped me even get it clearer now, because I did have a conversation, well, I had several conversations with the supervisor today about it. And it's still muddling about it. But I'm just not comfortable with a figure, just giving a total amount, rather than looking at how it's going to be distributed and what agencies it's going to be distributed to. So that's what I had. That's a conversation that Wally and I were having, and I just think that there are some agencies that I know work with and provide services to this population that. I don't know if they get more funding. I'm not even sure how to do it. But I just want to make sure that they're not going to be. I just want to make sure that they're not going to be cut out of the. When the mental health board does this, I'm just not sure how that's going to happen.
And Alderman Holmes, I think there's a number of ways we can do this. One way would be we could have the entire peer services funding come from the township. Looking at the list on page 21 of the agencies that are receiving services, it's roughly
100,000.
Well, I'm just looking at the list of the agencies.
Right.
It's probably about half of them, just at a glance, would be agencies that would have some contact with the township. Clearly Connections for the Homeless does. Clearly Peer Services does. My guess is that the Moran Center probably could. My guess is the Metropolitan Family Services probably could.
Should.
Housing Options certainly could. Likely not so much the Child Care Center of Evanston, the Child Care Network of Evanston, YOU, but not necessarily. And so I think we could either allocate among the dollars that the township, we could make there be a proportional share, or I'm happy as both your city manager and your township supervisor to sit with each of these organizations with Mr. Colquitt and say, with their first check in my hand, what can we do to make sure that our township GA clients are getting what's needed? Because I think it's more than just peer services, it's all of these organizations. And Mr. Colquitt and I haven't really had a chance to go through them one by one, but my guess is there's probably different relationships with each of them. Some are stronger than others, and there's no reason why they all shouldn't be strong. And that just takes your direction to me to get it done. But we can also, if it would make you, Alderman Holmes, more comfortable, come back with line item services for all of them in a proportional amount, just to symbolically say that a portion of the funding you're receiving is coming from the electors of Evanston Township. So I think any number or some combination of those ways, I think, can get done what you'd like to get done.
Right. And more so than my being comfortable, it's just I want to be real clear that when we are providing the dollars, that there are some benefits to the population. So we have a couple other lights. Let's get that, and then maybe we can get back to that. Alderman Brathwaite and then Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Alderman Holmes. And just to piggyback on what you said and follow up, thank you for your comments, Wally. Looking at the agencies that have an impact on that population, is there a way to also try to get a head around some numbers?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
Again, the mental health board, and I'm going to go to their meeting in January because I told the city council as part of recommending the final budget that I think there's work to be done with the mental health board about how they allocate, who they're allocating, what is the bigger picture, and I think this is all part of it. They did not have this discussion when they went through their allocations this year with a mind to the township. The township, I think, has been a piggy bank, and mostly in their mind. I don't say that in any way to be malicious toward the mental health board, but this programmatic connection really hasn't been made. And I really welcome this conversation with the committee this evening because I really believe it's almost $800,000 of taxpayer money that we've not done, in my estimation, a good enough job of focusing. So I think this discussion is the first step of that. We can take the money that's this year and do our best to the extent that we can with each of these groups and get whatever data. I mean, we're funders of each of these groups. They shouldn't have any problems with that. But in my discussions with the mental health board over the winter, my hope is to give them start thinking about this and to come back to you probably springtime with some ideas and settle on a dollar amount, because I think this idea of having the dollar amount be set once they've been through their 3 or 4 month process of selecting and going through applications doesn't make a lot of sense either. So if we can be done in April or May with a clear understanding of where this money is going, what's the need, for different populations, including the general assistance population, that'll make 15 a lot easier. But in the meantime, again, I'm happy to meet with all of them regardless. We can make changes to the budget as well.
Okay.
Allocating.
All right.
Budget.
I have Alderman Grover and then Alderman Burris.
I think if we look back to the agency's applications for mental health board funding this year, you'd probably get a lot of that data about who served and what programs, and I'm sure we would find that almost every one of these agencies serves family members who also have a connection to township services through GA or emergency assistance. It's 6,000 to 7,000 Evanston families, residents who are benefited by the mental health board funding. But I do agree, and I've thought for a long time, that there's got to be a better way to support funding through the mental health board. And I know the board has its own criteria and guidelines and principles and mission, and the more that we can align them with the actual funding through the township and some of the city's own goals would be, I think, a great benefit. But again, if you look back to the most recent applications, if the board is doing their work the same way that it did a decade ago, that they've got lots of data about who's coming through those programs and who the funding serves.
Sure. And again, it's about those linkages. It's, again, looking roughly at about half this list that we probably have some connection with through township staff with those agencies. Others we may not have any, but especially on the child care side, maybe there are linkages that need to be created that we have not made as formally as we should.
I'm sure the Infant Welfare Society is serving some young adults who also have connections to township services.
Right, and then you throw CDBG money in, and the money that many of these organizations also get from the CDBG funds. I mean, there's this continuum of service that we need to come back to. And, as we were talking, and Mr. Colquith was talking about staffing, I think we need to be mindful of our senior program staffing as they deal with at-risk individuals, our health department as they deal with at-risk individuals, our housing folks, both Sarah Flax and Mary Ann Poole. Lots of folks are dealing with people in need, and it may not be hiring more caseworkers. It may be hiring other paraprofessionals that take the work off of people like Mr. Colquitt. So I think we'll start with the one that we're proposing, and we'll see what happens. Once we know what those may or may not be, I think that'll help us come back. Citywide needed, and GA is a big part of that.
Alderman
Thank you.
Burris.
Yeah, thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you to the township staff for working so closely with Mr. Bobquitz on making this happen, and the coordination. I know a lot's been done with this, and I do see the benefit of much more of a consolidated, comprehensive approach. So again, thank you. I actually have a question about how do we qualify homeless persons to find out if they're client eligible?
Usually when they come in and they state that they're homeless, well, in terms of the code states that they need to just have an address, and they have to have an intention of staying in Evanston. Connections for the Homeless allows clients to use that as a mailing address, so the clients can receive notices. When they come in and they tell me that they're homeless, there's a case manager there that I call. There are several people there that I know and I call, and they come in with a homeless letter from the case manager. And then I confirm just in terms of volume, how how much services are they getting from your agency? Because I need to know that they're really in Evanston. But a lot of them, you know, especially if they're on the street, they can't really tell you where they're going to be tonight. They can say, I may be sleeping in back of the movie theater, or I may be sleeping in the park across the street from Lake Street Church, or I may be sleeping back and forth on the train. But as long as they are, from time to time, they have to be contacted, and it's their responsibility to check their mail at Connections. So the homeless piece is a piece that's verified kind of that way. That's GA. Anything else would be done based on looking on the Cook County website to see who owns the property, conducting a home visit to make sure that they're there. A landlord form is notarized by the landlord as the owner of the property. Before funds are released to a landlord, we have to know that the landlord owns the property. It's not, funds are not given to someone who is leasing an apartment and just have someone there to kind of live in a room. They have to own the property. So.
Do we, and when you that just remind me, do we have, years ago, I know that used to be lists of places where landlords would have rooms for folk that would rent out to, township individuals. Do we keep that stuff anymore?
I think that list is now non-existent.
Non-existent now?
It was around. I remember seeing it some years ago.
Yeah, I know that used to be because that was one of the ways in which you could, refer people who needed a safe place to live.
Right.
Because there were people who rented out rooms in their homes or whatever. When you said that, it just came to my head.
Yep.
So we have no actual resource now that we can refer anyone to.
No. I mean, when you're homeless, it's kind of like you tap into resources that you kind of run into on the street. Mm-hmm. And through word of mouth, one may find out that this lady over here has a kind of a boarding house, mm-hmm. and she has a room available. So they kind of communicate with each other and help each other survive. But in terms of a running list on boarding houses in Evanston, there isn't one now. Okay.
Okay, I don't see any more lights. No more questions?
Madam Chair, do you need a motion to recommend this to council? Came back with these revisions and.
Wait, hold on just one second. Is this going to be a question for town? I understand it's on the budget, but is it a question for us or is it a question that you want for the town hall meeting?
No, it's a question that for you.
Let's get your question before we.
Okay. In the ordinance 4T-0-13, it says the appropriation, and it has $1,497,324. How is the appropriation and the budget is connected? Because the new budget you have would be changing that appropriation figures, and then you're looking at the tax levy, which here is the same tax levy that was levied in 2013. So with that, not doing the math and all the figuring that's needed, wouldn't that suggest that the tax levy from this new figure, which it says an increase of $400,875, wouldn't, excuse me, wouldn't that tax levy need to be increased? Should it be increased?
I think I heard the supervisor say that raise the tax levy. I think that's what he said.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, that's correct. So the levy amount would remain the same. We will need to make adjustments to the ordinance. So if the motion from the committee back to the town board, not the city council, but back to the town board, is an affirmative recommendation, we will make those adjustments before next week. But the levy will remain the same.
So you're going to meet with staff and talk about the agencies and allocations? I just can't let it go. I don't know why. It's something really bothering me about this.
Well, Alderman Holmes, members of the committee, let me offer a couple concrete suggestions. We could take the dollars that are in the budget for the community purchase service, and we could allocate them on a percentage basis to all of the agencies that the Mental Health Board has already allocated. So we've not done the math, but it's pretty simple math. So we could have them appear as line items in the budget. That's one option. A second option would be to take the entire amount of the allocation to peer services and have that entire amount come from the township, and then have the balance broken out, because that 100,239 would be about 3/4 of the allocation from the township. So we could have that full amount for peer services come, as it has in the past, and we could prorate the remaining $30,000 to just leave it as putting it back into the pot, or we could also prorate it among the remainder. So I think the question for the committee is, are you most concerned about peer services? And if the answer is yes, then I would recommend that we just put that as a line item in the budget. If you're just concerned to make sure that there's that connection from this allocation, then I would suggest prorating it to all of the various agencies as to the percentage it would be of the total amount. So those, I think, would be the two recommendations, depending on your desires.
Alderman Grover?
My concern there is that I'm not sure I really understand what you're proposing, but the mental health board's allocations are pretty specific to application amounts, and some of them are specific to required matching funds. And so a percentage proration, I'm not sure it actually makes sense for the way that the funds were originally decided to be allocated.
Well, what that would do, let's take an example. So,
Yeah.
A round example. Well, the Moran Center at $40,000. So that is the allocation that has been approved. So Moran Center would get $40,000 from the city of Evanston, as we've currently proposed it. What we could do is we could say Moran Center is going to get $35,000 from the city of Evanston and $5,000 from the township. They still get their $40,000 as requested through the Mental Health Board, but there is that concerns that Alderman Holmes is raising. It's just that it not be forgotten.
Right.
We can also talk to them and do all those things as well, which we'll do regardless what you decide. But by having that hook, so that as we meet with the organization, we say, congratulations, Moran Center, you're getting $40,000. You're going to get $35,000 of it on a City of Evanston check and $5,000 of it on a Township of Evanston.
I just worried that we were substituting our judgment for the mental health board's judgment about the
and that's
specific
not what I'm
allocation.
trying to
Yeah,
do.
I don't want to do that. Thank you.
No, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to understand where the township dollars are going to go and how they're going to relate back. That's where I'm coming from.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think in the past, the one agency that has done the lion's share of work toward township recipients has been peer services. So, but I guess if you're asking for recommendation, I would prorate it for all the agencies so they all get a portion of township dollars.
Mm-hmm. And I guess, I'm really sorry because this has been my issue, and I'm just, it just doesn't settle right with me looking at it as a lump sum. It just keeps bothering me for some reason or another. So I'm much more comfortable with the prorated. And if we can see it, because it doesn't take anything away, but it makes it much clearer in terms of where the dollars are coming from the township.
So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, if you're okay with what's been presented, I think an appropriate motion then would be to forward this on to the town board as amended, and the amendment would be what we presented this evening plus Alderman Holmes's request.
And that is my motion.
Okay, all right.
Second.
No, I'm comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with that. I'm hoping, I hope the people who are going to be doing the work, are you all comfortable?
And the discussions, I think, Alderman Holmes, are very important too. And
Yes.
Mr. Colquitt, Ms. Thomas Smith, and I will make sure that each of these groups are talked with, because in some cases they may never have had that discussion.
Right,
And that can only
I think
improve.
that's probably true.
And I think they'd be delighted to have the conversation, and and build those linkages and serve more people and connect them to services,
Okay.
so.
Alderman Brathwaite, that's your light?
No, I was just,
Okay. Well, it's been moved in second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, all right. That, we have no communications. That concludes our agenda for this evening. And we are scheduled for a town hall meeting beginning at 7:30, so you have about 15 minutes to wait. Okay. Okay, we have a motion for adjournment. It's been moved in second. We are adjourned.